thanks so much for dropping in today. My name is Andy. I hope you are good today. I am certainly pretty good. Thanks for asking. So, subject for today's video. I was trying to think of something to do, and as happenstance always works so nicely and so fluidly, something came up in the British news, and first I thought, well, that's only really going to make sense to people in Britain or maybe Europe. But actually it's something that might not be a hot topic in the States or anywhere else in the world right now in itself, but it points to the general way that money has taken over everything, and I'm sure that is actually a big issue for everyone in the world at the moment, because that really seems to be the general thrust of everything that's happening. Bill Gates comes in for a lot of criticism, and I'm afraid he's going to get some from me right here, right now. He's brought a book out, basically. I mean, he's been doing this kind of thing for donkeys, yes, but he's brought a book out talking about sustainability and how we need to get rid of the old ways of farming and have new ways of farming where basically billionaires control everything, which I'm sure Bill Gates would love that, because he's a billionaire after all. That seems to be how it works. And when you actually read this book, it doesn't make any sense at all, really. It kind of makes some sense on the surface of it, but when you actually drill down, drill deep and see what it is he's trying to get rid of from the old ways of farming, you see it's absolutely crazy. The human race tradition of farming goes back something like 10,000 BC, as far as we know, possibly a lot further back than that, but we found evidence of it going back to 10,000 BC or so. And actually that was about the time the earliest settlers in United Kingdom, what is now United Kingdom, Britain, that's when the ancient Britons started to be patted out by people coming in from other parts of Europe, and the tradition of farming goes right back to then. So that is more than enough time for people to have learned the best ways of doing it, for it to become a perfected thing, as it were. What's been in the news today in Britain, and I think elsewhere in Europe, is that it's about football, or soccer as we would call it in America. But the great British game that everybody in Britain seems to rave about and have strong opinions about, and I have as well, because I'm not a football man, I'm not a soccer man, but I grew up in a football town, which is Sunderland in the northeast of England, and it has a long tradition of football, and our team won the FA Cup, which is sort of the biggest British football prize, or at least it was at the time, in 1973 when I was 9 years old, and it's etched on my mind, because even though I wasn't a football person, it was like my town doing something good, my people. But even then, it wasn't actually just my town or just my people, as I saw it. There were players being brought in from other teams all over Britain, and the whole business had started whereby the football team, which when it started out were always full of local people, and there would be little local football clubs, and the best ones would get into the town team or the county team, which in my case was Sunderland. And by 1973 there were people coming from all different parts of Britain to actually play in the team, depending on how much they got paid. So we'd lost that local thing, we'd lost that kind of passion. And then, of course, it went on to buying players from other countries, Italy in particular, and well, just anywhere that there were really superbly good footballers, they would get brought in from, and they would play for that local team, whichever local team it was, even though everybody knew that they weren't actually a local person. And so you see this globalization thing coming in, and teams would buy players, and this is my big objection. You can't really buy people. It's a very different proposition to slavery, because they were bought in terms of they were made financial offers that they couldn't possibly refuse, and that's how they were bought and controlled. But you just never can buy people, you never can control people. And so that separation came in, you got people cheering their local team, knowing very well that half the players weren't even from the local country, let alone anything else. And what's been in the news just last day or two is that There's this new kind of super football organisation in Europe, and some of the British teams they've said they're going to join it, and they're going to be paid £3.5 billion. That's and when you think £1 is like $1.40, that gives you an idea how much money that is. A hell of a lot, in other words. And those teams are kind of they're stepping out of the British football scene. They will still be regarded as British football clubs, but they'll be out of the British scene. And so you've got this unreality creeping in all the time, always more and more unreality going on. And I've been talking about football, and I've been talking about farming and agriculture, but really this is happening absolutely everywhere, even in terms of actual raw money, in terms of raw finance and actual cash. If you drill down into whatever your local bank is or whatever bank you use, you'll find that actually it's owned by some concern very far away from, very separated from your everyday reality. It's impossible to have savings and make interest on those savings without some of your money being invested in something like, for example, a sweatshop where small children have their lives ruined and just lose their whole childhood making shoes or making clothes or something like that. And as I look up at the camera, this is an iPhone I'm using, and I can see the word iPhone on the back, and it says designed in California, made in China. So, there's suffering behind that. It's almost impossible to get away from it. I don't know where I could get a camera that was ethically made by, grown adults who had the skills and had made the choices to actually do that. That side of things seems to have completely vanished, and it's all because of money, like everything else I've said in this video so far. It's absolutely all because of money. You can kind of con children into working for much less money than you can get an adult to work for. That's the bottom line of it, and it's that bottom line that matters so much. And this just brings me to an age-old question, and that's what today's reading is going to be about. I'm just going to be asking what is going on in the world. I'm going to use the Starman Tarot deck, which is this one, very colourful deck, designed and all the artwork, in fact, by David De Angelis, who was an artist who worked for David Bowie, and you see some David Bowie kind of images in these cards. And even there, we've come so far away from the traditional tarot, which was a much plainer, much simpler thing. And I'm happy with that, really, because it makes for a much more joyful experience of reading. But at the same time, I'm forever asking myself, have we gone too far? And will we ever actually come full circle? I think we will, friends, because what goes around comes around. Anyway, let's turn the camera onto the table. So what's it all about? Where is it all going? And, a question I always like to ask myself is, are the angels going to step in and do something about not football or farming or any one thing in particular, but just the craziness of the way things are going in the world? I'm sure they are, actually, but I always like to get some reassurance about that, because life is a lot easier to bear if we understand that there's a plan going on. So we've got the Starman cards down here. Don't know what they are yet. I have shuffled, but I don't know what they are yet. And we've also got Kyle Gray's Keepers of the Light, which is up top here to give us something significatory. And I'm going to do a tarot card first, and then, move up to Keepers of the Light one at a time, so we know just about where we're at with every card. And what's the first one here? Ace of Pentacles, upside down. Now there's a thing, because the very kind of wealthy powers and forces that I'm talking about who are taking everything over, they essentially are the Ace of Pentacles for the modern age. But I'm delighted to see this card is upside down. So this is showing us that everything isn't exactly as it should be, and that is obviously understood in the heavens. If I turn this card round so we can just see what it'd be like when it's the right way up, we've got this kind of cat creature falling down through the sky there, and that makes me think of everything that's good about the animal kingdom almost being in free fall. And the significance of that, really, in a card and in the situation that we're talking about, is that animals don't have this money thing, they simply don't have this dependence on money, this kind of they just don't, they wouldn't even know what money was, to be quite honest. I'm sure we're all aware of that. And that is the true light of nature, and that really is what's falling. But as the cards come out upside down, it's actually rising. So that's quite a good sign, if you ask me. So Ace of Pentacles reversed. That is, you know, in this deck we kind of start here, we come to the heart of the matter, and we've got the outcome here. So as a starting point, this is where we are, and I really hope this reading is going to show a path out of the situation that we're in at the moment. And we really need some kind of angelic intervention. We need the ascended masters, and we need the keepers of the light, really, to actually get us out of this, because it's so much bigger than any one person can actually change or do anything about at the present time. It really has gone wildly out of control. This is the problem. You know, even if you got a really enlightened political leader who wanted to change everything, a great deal of it would be impossible at the moment. So what have the angels of light to say about this? Well, here we've got Saint Germain, and he's a wonderful alchemical character, actually. He reincarnated several times. And actually Merlin, we've talked a lot about Merlin in recent videos for the good reason that he is absolutely amazing character. And he has actually incarnated as Saint Germain more than once. Saint Germain karma releasing, and it says here, move beyond drama, create your own path, make room for good energy. And here we go. You see, I'm talking about we could have an enlightened political leader who really wouldn't be able to change anything. Just, you know, it's greater than any one person can actually change the whole thing. But we can all kind of make these little changes within our own life. Maybe I should get rid of the iPhone, see if I can find an old camera that was made by real human beings that actually works. I kind of doubt it somehow, but that's one way I could fix the thing that's bothering me about my own contribution to this world situation as I look into it today. But it says move beyond drama. And that really would take some alchemy, wouldn't it? Because we get drama shoved in our face all the time. In fact, I've been waffling on about football, and I've had that shoved in my face the last couple of days because it's so big in the British news. Got to detach from drama, really. I guess that's what it's talking about. Create your own path. Well, I've often talked about that, actually, and you could see over here, in the earlier one, shot where I had my face in shot, you could see some of my plants growing on the windowsill there. And that's me creating my own path, you know, so I can eat food that I've grown myself without depending on the supermarkets. Very, very few people do that in the Western world. It's really kind of, it's almost a fringe thing, it's a minority thing, but it's growing, you know, more and more people are interested in it. I'm sure lots of people who don't grow their own vegetables every year look at people who do grow their own vegetables and think, I'm going to try that next year. And then there are more people doing it next year. So every individual creates their own path. And that, my friends, actually makes room for the good energy. And that is where it's at. So what is card number 2, I hear you ask? It's the right way up, and it's the Ace of Swords. Now, I'm glad it's the right way up for this one, actually, because it's another ace, and the aces are all about something alchemical going on, you know, that's always the meaning of it in there somewhere. This is a very rusty, crusty kind of sword, but that just shows how ancient it is. It's still rock solid, and it's still red hot at the top. You see, energy always gathers at a point. If you heat up a pointed object, it'll always be hottest at the tip. That's how it works. That's the nature of it. That's the nature of nature, I suppose would be a good way to put it. So we've got the Ace of Swords, and this shows two things really about the situation we're talking about. One is to get away from this inverted, perverted, upside down Ace of Pentacles situation that the world is in at the moment. We've got to kind of cut through it like a sword. That's what it's really going to take. But the swords also, every single time you get a sword card, it represents some kind of thought process, some kind of thinking. And with the Ace of Swords, it's got to be magical. You really got to think outside the box to make a difference. So, what have the Keepers of the Light to say about this? We've got Commander Ashtar, and it's a call to action, and that really fits the Ace of Swords, actually, because to take up that call to action and really create a call to action within your own life, you have to be prepared to change things around, and that is the sword of the thinking, the thought process, the decision making that's going on. And Commander Ashtar, with his call to action, says, take charge, lead by example, walk your talk. That is what he's all about, and that is what the Ace of Swords is all about. The question, my friends, and this is for you, me, just as much as it is for you, is, are we actually willing to walk our own talk, to lead by example, and to actually take charge? Because that's what we've got to do at an individual level. It's not going to fix the problems of the whole world overnight. This is going to take many, many generations, you know. It's going to be way outside our own lifetime by the time we've put this thing totally to rights. But think about it, okay, about 150 years ago, the world just wasn't like this. Fact of life. So if it's taken 150 years to get like this, surely we can undo it quicker than that. I'd like to think we could, you know, because when you build a thing, you have to be ever so careful. When you take a thing apart, much less so. You just got to kind of take it apart, basically. And you can take things apart in your own life that you're not happy with. Absolutely, for sure you can. And that is the call to action from Commander Ashtar that we're dealing with. And that's what's going to make the Ace of Swords work. It's making that decision. And they're not easy decisions to make, friends, but they do have to be made. And that's what the Ace of Swords is telling us here. So now we come to the centre axis. This is going to be the heart of the matter. This is going to be the nitty-gritty. This is what it's all about. It's the Two of Swords, so we're still with the sword card. See, there's still a lot of thinking to do, and it's actually the very next sword card in this deck. We've got ace, now we've got two, and this is the heart of the matter. Okay, there are two sides to everything, of course, and that's what makes the Ace of Swords decision such a big mental effort, because there are always going to be two sides to everything. And this is what's going to happen. We've got to separate this thought process. We've got to separate the dependence on money on the one hand from the actual need for truth, because we depend on truth just as much as we depend on money. I just think, you know, the money side of things is always trying to blank the truth side out, but we depend on them both. And that's what we've got to do. We've got to separate them. That's the heart of the matter. That's what's really going on at the present time. And lots of turquoise in this card, much more turquoise than gold, actually. We've got the gold at the top. And the turquoise, that's the truth, you know. That is the throat chakra colour. That's about speaking your truth. And by extension, guys, it's about living your truth. That's what really, really matters. And that is what's going to make all the difference here. We've got an oyster down here with a black pearl in it. And that's making me think obsidian, you know. And the obsidian journey is often quite a difficult journey. It's about facing your fears, you know. And that's a difficult one for all of us. But we've got a snake down here, and this is what the money's all about. It's like a puff adder or a rattlesnake or something, ready to come in and kill you and take everything for itself. Facing your fears, though, and I include myself in this, facing our fears is what's going to be uplifting. And that, again, because it's a sword card, that's a choice we've all got to make. What have the angels, what have the ascended masters to say about this? For the heart of the matter, Kononos, life force, express your driving passion, sensual and sexual powers are increased. Interesting. I'm not quite sure how I can bring sex into this. Oh, yes, I am, actually. I've just thought of it. If you think about what is really rather horribly called the love industry, I'm talking about kind of pornography and that kind of thing. And just the general dependence on sexuality that we see coming from the stars, you know, the biggest players in our world at the moment. Even the politicians try to have some kind of sexual power about them, some kind of sexual charisma, I suppose. It's all part of charisma. And it's false when it's used like that. The real importance of that is when it brings people together. That's when it creates something magical. That's when it creates something better than could ever have existed without it. That's what sensuality, that's what sexuality is all about. And this, as the heart of the matter, is showing that this is how close the problems of the world are actually to our own hearts. This is the connection that we actually have, because Kernanos is a very, very earthly power. Looks a bit like Aries the ram here. We've got antlers and we've got these ram horns here. And the great thing about that is that there's a lot of hope in this card at the heart of the matter as well, because the life force is going to push through. It's going to punch a hole in all the crap that's going on in the world. That's, I'm really delighted to see that there. And this means that we're going to have this kind of angel level help going on with the big decisions that we've all got to make. And it's not just us, the people at the top have to make those decisions as well. But it depends on money. They depend on our money, on what we spend. And it's only when we decide the direction that we're going to go in that things are actually going to change. And that's going to force the powers that be to change the things they're trying to sell us, the ideas they're trying to sell us. And they'll scramble at it, they'll try, but eventually they'll fall apart. I can just see the billionaire classes falling apart this way. I really can. To come back to Bill Gates, the book he's written just lately is such obvious rubbish that only real Bill Gates fans are going to agree with it, and no one else is going to agree with it. And the billionaires are slowly eating themselves and generally killing off what they depend on. So this is great. Kernanos, excuse me, Kernanos, life force, express your driving passion. That's the important thing. What really drives you? What makes you passionate about what you do? It's all there to be thought about, to be contemplated. And I sometimes think, does this mean I should pull away from YouTube? And I'm sure it doesn't, because YouTube is a prime example of something that can either be good or bad, depending on the way we use it. If we use it as a good thing to actually talk to each other, to get these new ideas out there, it can be an absolutely beautiful thing. So when I talk about, the systems of the world falling apart, I'm not talking about the internet. I'm not talking about these bonds that we forge across the world in different countries, which are wonderful. I'm talking about what we actually do with those bonds, what we actually do with all the energy that is the internet. And as I'm talking about it, I'm thinking about it. Two of Swords, it's got to be thought about. It really has. So, what is card number 4 going to be? That is the question, which is immediately answered. Number 20, Judgment. And of course, judgment has got to happen before anything else really kicks into play. Everything I've said about decisions that's come up in the Two of Swords and the Ace of Swords, and everything we can do about turning this card round, that's energetically, that's what we've got to do. We've got to get the Ace of Pentacles the right way up, so that the abundance in our lives, the money in our lives, is actually producing real abundance, producing something genuine. That's what's got to turn around. And it's a matter of using our own judgment, and eventually that is going to force the authorities, as it were, to actually use their judgment and start making judgments that go in the right direction. And it is so powerful. Look at the flaming great thing coming out of this character's head here. He's got a 5-pointed star on his forehead, so he's tuned in to what the abundance is all about. And that 5-pointed star, even though this isn't a pentacle card, we've got a pentagram on there. And that is always about all the different elements, earth, air, fire, water, and the divine as the 5th element, all coming together, all working together. And that's the judgment we've got to make in our own lives, guys, and that is what's actually going to force the authorities to be doing the right thing. What has the Ascended Masters deck got to say about this? Here we've got the Shekinah, the sacred self, and she is saying, unleash your spirit, express your gifts, dance to the sacred rhythm of life. Now, at this present time, it's very difficult for people to dance to any kind of rhythm, isn't it? Because lockdowns are going on all over the place. A lot of us seem to be coming out of it, but I was watching a German YouTuber I like. He's Fraser Gartshaw. Actually, he's Scottish, but he lives in Germany, and he was talking about Germany. And he's saying they're having a real big extended lockdown just starting to kick in there. So it's not over, not by a long way. And as long as that's going on, very difficult to actually dance to the sacred rhythm of life. But what we can do is unleash your spirit, express your gifts. That's what I'm doing here now, expressing my gifts. Guys, express your gifts. Whatever it is you can do that is over and above the dreary chain of cause and effect. get that going, because that is going to really increase the rhythm of your own life. And rhythm is so important. I'm always saying, you know, there's no time in the spirit world. And when I advise people to meditate regularly, I never mean regularly as in a time on the clock. What I'm always saying is at a regular point in your day. That's the way to meditate, because then it becomes a rhythm. And the spirit world certainly aren't into time, but they always recognise and appreciate a rhythm. It draws them in. So this is what we've got to do, and it's great actually, because we're coming away from all the moribund money stuff as we move through the reading. We've got this powerful plume of judgment, and we use that judgment to actually unleash the spirit, to express all our own individual gifts, which matter so much. And that gets us dancing to the sacred rhythm of life. You know, that can't be repressed forever. It's been repressed for quite a long time now, and the powers that be are always trying to repress it even more. But they can repress it no longer once we all start dancing to the sacred rhythm of life. So unleash your spirit, express your gifts. What's the outcome card going to be? It is the Two of Wands, and this is great. This is the beginning of the magic. So it's not a total outcome. It's the outcome of this spread. It's the outcome of this reading. But it's not the end of the game, not by a long way. This shows that once we go through all this, we can start afresh. And that is such a powerful idea. The wands here have got rocket plumes coming out of them, because this is the Starman deck and it's all kind of magical and crazy. But the suit of wands is just about the most earthy kind of energy there is when you really think about it. It's very kind of world-based, you know, it's nature-based, really. The wands themselves are broken from trees. Maybe you've broken the wand off for yourself, or maybe nature, the wind has blown and the stick has fallen and you've picked the stick up. I think that's the best way to get a wand, by the way, actually. And so the Two of Wands, it's getting things done, you know, and it's moving forward without looking back. That's what's really important. This character's looking sideways, but he is not looking back. Or she, sorry, because she's got a skirt on. She is definitely not looking back in this card. And that's what the Two of Wands is about. You've got to take some action. There's no new information going to come. You just got to take some action. And that really is what judgment is all about. I think the positions of these two cards are interchangeable. I think they both work together. So that's the Two of Wands there. And Paul the Venetian, experiencing grace. Now this is it, guys. We're experiencing grace every single day of our lives. That's what our dreams are about. That's what draws us to magic. That's what draws us to the tarot. That's what draws us to make use of our psychic senses. There is wonderful grace there, because no matter how much the human race screws up, we keep on experiencing the grace of the divine nature. And this is kind of the grace of God, the grace of the Great Spirit, but it's also the human grace. It's something we've all got within us. It's something that's written into the human code. And all we need to do to experience it is just actually be willing to tune in and accept that we are experiencing it, really, and it becomes more and more real there. And Paul the Venetian says, share your gifts with grace. Waves of inspiration and love are coming to you. Well, says it all, really. There's not much more I can add to that when you think about it, because whatever I say, I'm always trying to direct people's attention to what the angels have to offer, what the divine has to offer, what the Great Spirit has to offer. And those wonderful angelic forces offer us that from within ourselves. It's all part of who we are. It's written into the human code. It really is. So as we come to the Two of Wands, starting to build a new, not a whole new world, not at all. I mean, it's the way we use the world, I guess. I'm struggling for words, but it's a big topic. It's the way we use the word world. Once we see that in a new way, we start building a wonderful reality for the future, for us to go forward. And it does happen, guys. It really, you know, this planet is a very young planet, and all of this is going to happen. We're going to become much more enlightened as a race of people as we go forward. So Paul the Venetian, experiencing grace, he says, share your gifts with grace. Okay, so develop your gifts as much as you can and share them gracefully. Share them with everyone. Waves of inspiration and love are coming to you. Wonderful. And that has cheered me right up, guys. I was feeling a bit desperate at the beginning of this. so much for watching. This is what I'm talking about. So I'm growing my own tobacco here, and I've got various seeds in pots growing. I even make my own candles, you know. And it's great making your own candles, because that really is a kind of a spiritual tool that you create for yourself. Wonderful to do that, and wonderful to have the ability to do that. I'm so grateful and delighted that it's possible for me to do that we live in an age when I can do that, because goodness me, candles in the Dark Ages were horrible. They stank, they didn't give off much light, because they had to be made out of whatever you had, which was just like the fat of probably someone else's meat, because most people couldn't afford meat. So you'd have the fat that you'd begged from somewhere, and you'd wrap it round a bit of sheep's wool or something, and didn't give off much light at all. But yeah, absolutely magical thing even so, and to be able to actually create your own and make it heart-shaped as well, I think is great. So I'm grateful and delighted for that. But there's a little example of how we can start doing things for ourselves, do things more and more for ourselves. That's how we take the power out of the hands of out of the hands of greed, I suppose, rather than pointing it at any one person. I think it's just general greed. That's what's playing into the football, the soccer stuff I was talking about at the beginning. I think we all know very well it's playing into agriculture and into the foods we eat. This is how we move forward, you know, taking stuff into our own hands, because that isn't anything like as basic and earthy as it sounds, because as we take things into our own hands, we're actually acting in synchronicity with the angels, with the heavens, with everything that matters. So on that note, thanks again for watching, guys. Please do hit the subscribe button if you haven't yet. Big thanks to everyone who has, by the way, but please hit that subscribe button. And friends, if you have subscribed already, would you please check and see if you're still subscribed, because YouTube has unsubscribed something like 20 people from my channel in the last 2 weeks, and I'd really like to keep you guys on board. So to make sure you don't miss anything, basically check that subscribe is still kind of greyed out and it says subscribed with a D on the end, and you have actually subscribed. Thumbs up please if you've enjoyed this one as well. If you'd like to buy me or buy the channel a coffee, please head over to my coffee page. The address for that is a clicky link down in the description below. Lots of pictures of what's going on in my life at the moment, and a wonderful way to support the channel. If you can do that, I'd be so grateful. So that's coffee.com/twig. The link is down there. Leave me a comment, guys, as well, by the way. If you picked a card, tell me how that went. I'm always interested to know. It helps our spirit guides get zeroed into each other, helps me know who I'm reading for, and it means we can share the journey as well, which is always a great thing. I read all the comments. I don't always reply these days, but there are so many comments piling in at the moment. I am absolutely grateful and delighted for that turn of events. Sadly, it does mean I don't get the time to kind of reply to everyone, but I'm always happy to do that. Also, private readings. If you'd like a private reading, the email address is down there. Hit me up with an email at 35and83@gmail.com. Click the link and we'll make an arrangement. It can be on Zoom, it can be by email, it can be anything. So many different ways of doing things. And that is one of the great blessings of technology. And that side of technology is what we've got to hang on to. So hang on tight, friends, to everything that matters. And I'll see you again in a future video. Love, light, blessings, and peace.